Hello there, this is Dave Hurwitz, Executive Editor at ClassicsToday.com, here to talk to you about the perfect single-disc introduction to the music of Alberto Ginastera, the fabulous Argentinian composer who all of you know about because of the dances from his ballet Estancia, particularly the Malambo at the end, which I've played and which is just tons and tons of fun. But, most people don't know the rest of his music. Certain works became popular in his lifetime. The Variaciones Concertantes, that was written for the Boston Symphony, or at least recorded by the Boston Symphony, and the Harp Concerto gets recorded, and the first Piano Concerto, which is a knockout, of which there are too few recordings and too few really great recordings. Ginastera had three basic styles, and he defined them for us. They were, first of all, he claims, just straight-out romantic nationalism, which was based on the folk music of his native Argentina. And then there was a more, what he called, objective nationalism, which is a way to use the elements of folk music, but to synthesize them into a much more personal musical language of his own. And then finally, there was what he called neo-expressionism. This is the stuff that nobody likes to listen to because it's atonal. But, it still sounds just like Ginastera. That's what's so cool about it. His late music is marvelous. The Piano Concerto is a wonderful example of it. And, of course, his two late operas, including Bamarzo, they're just nuts and really, really fun to listen to. Yeah, sure, the tunes aren't there, but the rhythms and the colors and all the rest of it is still present, adapted to his new style. And so he's a very interesting composer to listen to because his works underwent a really direct stylistic progression from the early ones to the late ones. That said, people, of course, still prefer the early ones. And I really think, some of this stuff has been recorded very, very frequently. The dances from Estancia show up on all of those, greatest hits of Latin America, collections, and they've been wonderfully well done. They really have, by lots and lots of people. But I would like to talk more about, or suggest that you get a disc that shows you his evolution as a composer, that isn't about Latin America, that's about the music of Alberto Ginastera, who was a major creative force and a splendid, splendid composer. And that disc, if you really want to know, is this one, conducted by Jan Wagner, who's actually from Caracas, he's Venezuelan, with the Odense Symphony Orchestra of Denmark. And this is a great, great Ginastera disc on Bridge Records. And why is it great? Well, let me tell you what's on it. There are 4 works on here, and I'm going to tell you what they are. They're not played in chronological order, but I'm going to tell you what they are in chronological order. The earliest of them is the Estancia dances, and the performance is absolutely wonderful. Wagner is not one of those razzle-dazzle, hot-blooded Latin America types who doesn't know how to conduct but does everything fast. There are quite a few of them out there. And one of them was the young Dudamel. Remember him? In Los Angeles, where he is now. He recorded the Estancia dances, and he did them faster than any human being has any right to play them. And I think, quite frankly, they sounded horrible as a result of it. Wagner does not overdo the speed element because he actually lets you hear what's in the music. And I think that's really important. And I'm going to play you a bit of the final Malambo because you'll hear exactly what I mean. For example, the xylophone glissandi, is usually you don't hear that at all. You don't hear all of the wonderful details of orchestration, even when the music is supposedly going nuts. But here you do. You hear it all. And it doesn't sound slow. It sounds rhythmic, and it sounds precise, and it sounds colorful. And that's the idea. Here, listen to this. So that's one example of what I'm talking about. And you'll see that having an opportunity to actually savor the music and hear it instead of just watching it sort of whiz by like lights flashing by on a highway at night really, really, really helps. It really helps the music. But the other works, let's take the next one. The Overture to the Creole Faust. The Overture para el Fausto Criollo. Now, this is a wonderful overture that actually tells the story of a gaucho from the countryside who goes to the big city and to see Gounod's Faust. And he's fascinated by it. And on the way home from seeing Faust, he sits down by the riverside and he meets sort of a hobo and they get drunk and he tries to explain what Faust is about. And that's what this overture does. And it quotes several themes from Faust, along with a lot of Argentinian folk stuff. And it's absolutely marvelous. It's great, great fun. That's the next work. And then the third piece is Ollantay. Ollantay is a symphonic triptych that is based on Inca mythology. It's, the son of the moon versus the son of the earth versus the son of the sun god, and they don't get along, and one of them kills the other one, and that doesn't make any difference. There are 3 movements, and the music is a little bit more austere than what we hear in Estancia, but it's every bit as evocative. And finally, you get Pampeana No. 3. Now, the Pampeanas, the first 2 are chamber works in single movement. The third one is a big orchestral piece in 3 movements, about 20 minutes long. It's as close as Ginastera ever got to writing a symphony. And again, it's a sort of transmogrification of the ideas behind some Argentine folk music, especially in the quick central movement. But the last movement is a wonderfully passionate adagio where we really begin to hear that sort of expressionist, let it all hang out, emotional hysteria almost that characterizes Ginastera's neo-expressionist phase. And I'm going to play you a bit of the climax of the adagio of the finale of Pampeana No. 3, and you'll hear exactly what I mean. It's extremely intense and extremely full of emotion, and that's wonderful. It's wonderful stuff. Here, just listen to this. And for that reason, for all that reason, because you get these 4 absolutely wonderful, characteristic pieces by Ginastera on the way to his late period, but it gives you a very good sense of what he was about as a composer, and also because you hear the evolution in his style from one work to another, you know that he, first of all, wasn't a one-shot wonder, and he wasn't somebody who was resting on his laurels, or who was just sort of a shallow nationalist or socialist realist type composer. He was, even though, Argentina didn't really have socialist realism as much as they had dictatorship realism. They had, Juan Perón realism, but it doesn't make any difference. Ginastera was a great 20th century voice, and this disc on Bridge Records, featuring the Odense Symphony under Jan Wagner, is a superb way to get to know him. Him, not the music of Latin America. So keep on listening, folks. There's a lot more by Ginastera, and I look forward to talking to you about it all in due course, of course. Thank you. Bye-bye.